Um, so this is an interview for the future generation of us
Okay.
to always look back on. Thought it'd be fun to do that, and so I have a few questions you can answer if you'd like to. Um, so, who are you? What is your name?
I'm Glenn B. Smith,
What's the B stand for?
Bonner.
Bonner. Where did your name come from?
Okay, my dad was a twin to a girl, and they were born on the 22nd of April, and I was born on the 20th of April. So I was close to their birthday, and my aunt's name was, my dad was Glade, and my aunt, his sister, was Glenna. And so where I was close to their birthday, that's where I got my name, Glenna.
Glenna? Her name was Glenna?
Uh-huh.
That's cool. And where does that name, is it like Irish? Is it, do you know where it comes from in that?
I don't know.
Gotcha. Because it's such a unique name.
You don't hear it a lot. And usually when you do, they've been named for someone, or you just don't hear it all the time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's where I got my name from, Aunt Glenna.
Super unique.
And she had a son. I was born in April. He was born in May.
Okay.
And so I was named Glenna, and he was Leland. And he was named after his dad.
Gotcha.
So it was confusing. So Aunt Glenna called me Penny, and she called Leland Pink.
Gotcha.
Pink and Penny.
Pink and
And
Penny.
I went by Penny till probably second or third grade. And then, kind of,
Faded.
yeah.
Nice. That's because I never knew where your name came from.
That's,
Now I do.
now you do.
Well, thanks.
Because a lot of people say, you don't hear that too often, and you don't.
No, it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
So am I.
Yep. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Where were you born?
Midway, Utah,
What year?
1936.
Childhood like for you?
Oh, I had a great childhood because I was one that they did what I wanted them to do.
What's one of your favorite memories growing up in Heber?
In Heber?
Yeah. Or just in general, what's one of your most favorite memories?
Oh, let me tell you about the worst memory I do have.
Okay.
Was when we was in probably the 6th or 7th grade in Midway. And your grandma Clyde we were best friends. And we usually had hot lunch and then would run down to my place for something. And we had pigs out back of our house. And my brother had been out in the pens shooting rats. And when he came in, he put the gun up on top of a shelf in the hallway that we come through. And most children would not want to even touch a gun. But being the personality I was, a smart aleck and show off, I took this gun and pointed it at my very best friend and said, stick 'em up, and pulled the trigger, and it was loaded. And how Connie got outside as fast as she did, because she was outside standing by a tree when my mother come screaming into the hall. And she was, you could call her a tree hugger. And I was petrified. I think that's the one and only time I was really, really scared. Because it could have been, and your grandmother would say, something moved me. And I'm sure it did. Because we both had, good lives and stuff, and that could have been the ruination of our friendship and maybe her life. So that is one regret that I have of being such an obnoxious child. And we stayed friends.
Still friends today?
Mm-hmm. Still friends today.
Do you know how old were you when that incident happened?
I think we were about 11, 12.
Nice.
Yeah. No, but
Besides getting a gun and shooting your best friend, what was childhood like for you? What was it like growing up in that time of year?
oh, growing up in Midway was great because everybody took care of everybody else and no one sued. If you were doing something and an adult saw you, you were told, if you don't stop that, then go on home. And when you were at anyone else's home, you was meant to do as they asked you to do. And so it was, we were, I was all over town doing on my bike and by the way, we didn't get a bike when we was 3, or a trike even. We got a bike for my 12th birthday. And of course that gave me free rein to go quite a few directions. But my mom and dad both knew when the sun started to set, Glenn will be home. Because I was not one that really liked to sleep over anywhere. I wanted to be home when it got dark.
For sure.
So I had pretty, went all over town and just did fun things, but I headed home for supper.
All right.
So you obeyed your curfew, but pulled a gun on your best friend. You gotta have balance.
You got a good life balance right there.
Thank you. That made me feel good.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 5 brothers, Tom and Wayne, Gary, Richard, and Lewis. And I had one sister, Beverly, who was the oldest. Totally different than the rest of us.
Where did you fit in on the family?
There was Beverly and Tom and Wayne and Gary, and then me, then Richard and Lou.
Gotcha. And then how was home, like growing up with all those guys? What was the home like?
There was a lot of confusion. We only had one bathroom in that house, and there was 9 of us, and my grandmother lived in the other side of the house. And of course, when Grandma said she had to go to the bathroom, you let Grandma in the bathroom, or else you cleaned up whatever mess Grandma made. But I got along really well with my brothers. Beverly and I, we really didn't have anything in common because we were so totally different. And but I got along with my brothers. Tom, when he got his car, I didn't have a driver's license, but he said, if you clean my car, you can go up cemetery and back, or you can go to the Memorial Hill and back. So if I could drive the car, I would almost do anything. But I got along with my brothers really well.
Nice. Did you ever play? What was some of your favorite activities to do? Did you play sports? Did you like to play any instruments? Did you do anything like that?
No. No. I just I did okay in school, and I really liked music, but not enough to really get involved in it because we had a music teacher that was to die for. He was just so good, but you had to do it so good for him. And so I really didn't get into, I like to sing with a group, but I would never be a solo person.
Speaking of school, did you have a favorite teacher? Did you have a favorite subject that you liked?
I liked, my most favorite teacher her name was Javenta Hamlin, and she lived over here in Heber. And she was one that could get a student to do anything because they wanted to do it. And they never knew that that was her way of teaching us, letting us think that we were in charge. And she was just and she liked me, and most of the teachers they liked me, but I was just I wanted to be the boss, but I had fun in school. In fact, I went from the first grade to including the eighth grade over to Midway, and didn't miss a day of school for 8 years.
Wow.
I liked going to school, and I really liked learning, but I talked a lot, and I was kind of bossy, but I liked school.
Speaking like of school and growing up, and besides shooting your best friend, was that the most trouble you've ever got in, or what was the biggest trouble you ever got in, or was that it where you pulled the gun?
That was major, really, but I did a lot of things that nobody knew I did. And I took cows to the field. I rode the pulley horse to pull up hay. These were the things that I enjoyed doing, that other girls would no more take cows to the field. And Dr. Berg, Todd Berg, his dad's grandfather lived just by us. And we would take the cows to the pasture, and then we'd ride home on our horses, and we could stand up on the horses and ride. And so we kind of was trick riders.
Okay.
We were good. But I had more boyfriends than girlfriends.
Gotcha.
Because I just wasn't a prissy. If I had a pair of jeans and I didn't care whose they were, I was happy.
Nice.
My brothers weren't too happy when they went for their jeans, and I'd taken them and wore them. But I like being outside and just doing things outside.
Yeah. Awesome. What school did you graduate from?
I graduated from Midway Elementary, and then I went to high school, the 9th and 10th and 11th grade, and I had learned everything there was to learn. So I got married and didn't finish my senior year.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer, Alan.
But after I had my kids, I went back to school, adult education, and got my high school diploma.
There it is.
Okay.
What was your first job?
Cleaning a crippled's home. She was crippled, and she was mean. She wasn't nice. For someone that had to depend on people, she was my dad's cousin. And so I went in and cleaned her house. She had a tile floor in her bathroom, tile like enamel. You cleaned it with a cheesecloth on your hands and knees. And she had a cook stove. It was a black cook stove. It was the most beautiful stove you've ever seen. You had to polish it. You couldn't even boil water without having to clean the whole stove. She was a bitch to work for. But I think that's where I learned how to clean. I mean, Mom, we had to do stuff at home, but but I wanted the spending money, so I did it. And then I went to work in another place her name was Jessica Whitaker Turner, and she had cancer, And her husband, I worked up at the homestead for something, and he said, "What would you think about coming and spending time with my wife and taking care of our house?" And so I did. And it was just totally different than working for June Bonner. They were so nice to me and they so appreciated it. And Jessie, one day she said, "I want you to take me to the cemetery." I was 14, 15. I says, "I don't have a driver's license." And she says, "Well, I've got a car and we can go the back roads." And they lived over across from the schoolhouse, so I didn't have to get on busy Main Street in Midway. And we went to the cemetery, and she wanted to show me where she was going to be buried. And it was just a joy working for her because everything I'd done was done perfect as far as she was concerned, you know. And her husband, he came out of his bedroom one morning and he was getting ready for work. He had a white shirt. And he came over to me and he says, "Glenna," he had the collar. And he says, "See this wrinkle in this collar?" I thought, "Oh, here it comes." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, the next time you iron my shirt, put that wrinkle in the shirt tail, will you?" And I said, "I sure will." He never had a wrinkle in his collar again, but he could have been very rude, you know, threw the shirt at me. But he said, "Just put that in the tail instead of the collar." And they had a son. They had a daughter that played the piano. She was an opera, and she played the piano. And then they had Chuck. There was a younger guy. Oh, he just drove me crazy. He was damn mean to me and just tease, you know. But it was the best job I ever had.
How much did they pay you?
I think 75 cents an hour, which was, you know, I was 14, 15, and I got to drive without a license. And they treated me like family. They were just so nice. And, you know, when you're dying, you could get away with a lot. You could be miserable and hateful, but not ever. Mm-mm.
Never good.
No.
So when did you meet Grandpa?
I was working at Chick's Cafe, and he had been in service, and he got. I was dating a kid that went in the service the month that Grandpa got out of the service. My other boyfriend joined the Navy, and so I was working at Chick's, and Jerry and his brother Doyle would come in every morning, and you know, they flirt and tease you, and I just thought I was so cool because this older guy, and so he wanted me to go out with his brother Blaine. Well, Blaine and I were not matched. Blaine was so quiet, and he was scared to death of me, I believe. But anyway, he took me out, and it, you know, neither one of us enjoyed it, I don't believe. And so Jerry asked me if I thought my parents would let me go out with him. So I got to go out with him for a time or two, and then they decided that he was too much older than I was, and so that we shouldn't date. So this was my idea, I'm sorry, but I got my girlfriends to come and get me and take me to Heber, then I'd go with Jerry. And then by that time, Jerry could take me home. But we'd maybe dated like that for a few months. And then he said, "I can't, this isn't right. If we can't do this right, then I can't, he was just not the type that can do things like that. So we're going to go talk to your parents." I thought, I'll get killed. Right there, they will kill me. And so we told them what we'd done, and I thought my dad would go crazy. He didn't. My mother did. She was livid. And she told him to get his out of there and not to come back. And said, you go upstairs to your room before I have your dad kill you. I'm paraphrasing, but that was what she was saying. And she said, it's not going to happen. You're not going to date him.
So how did it end up? How did it end up working?
Not very well. Because we really felt something for each other. And so he said, I'm going to go talk. No, Mom called him and said, I need to talk to you. And he come out to school and got me, and he said, your mother wants to talk to me. I says, good. I'm not going with you. But anyway, she said that she appreciated him coming forth with what had been taking place, and that we could date but don't get excited about getting married. And so that right there told them something about Jerry. And I think they thought, we can let her go. Because he was just, what you saw is what you got. He didn't lie, he didn't cheat, and he was a good guy. And so we got engaged in May and got married in September. And I went up we was living in an apartment, and I fixed him a lunch, set it on a plate, and then I went to town with my girlfriends and had lunch. I was up to Chicks having lunch, and Jerry came after me. And he said, there's a sandwich down on my kitchen table where I live. Why don't you come down and share it with me? I'm paraphrasing again. I was so embarrassed. But I never went with my girlfriends for lunch again. Because he said, if I'm going to eat a sandwich, so are you. Because we couldn't afford to. So anyway, he had to help me grow up. And I think Mom and Dad knew, let's give her to him. We can wipe our hands of her.
It's your chance.
So after being married, how many kids did you end up having?
Well, I had Kent, he was the oldest, and then 14 months later I had Berlene, and then probably 2 years, I'm not sure, but anyway, I was pregnant with our third one, Vance, and he was born a month early, and it's called hyaline membrane. That's when your lungs aren't completely developed. And so he just lived 2 days. And now that's a common thing, and they, know how to treat that. And that was when I really realized that I was not in control. That things happen that you have no control over. But it was a very learning, and it brought us closer together, and it was a good thing, but a hard thing. And we weren't active at the time, and so that even makes it worse, because you don't feel like, oh, I'm in trouble now. I've got to go to my Heavenly Father, where I've never needed Him before. I want Him now. But that isn't how it works. You just humble yourself and do what has to be done. And it was a very growing, maturing thing for me, because it wasn't. No one was to blame, really, but things happened. But now I can say he was the key to us going to the temple, because if you wanted to raise him, It's up to you. You know, you got to be worthy to raise this child. So then we had Roy, and then Linda. So we had all we could afford, and we've had our trials with them, and but they always knew. I'm sure I could say, and you could ask them. I think they always knew that they were loved. They didn't always get everything they wanted, but they got what they needed. And so it's surprising what can happen to you, and you're not in control, the blessings that it can bring into your life. And so that's one thing that I'm looking forward to, is raising my son. And I don't know how that works really, because Amber has seen him, and he's not a baby. So I just put a lot of trust in my Heavenly Father, and I've got kids that love and respect me. Sometimes we think I'm stupid, but I'm not. I tell them that. But we had our trials with them too. You know, they give us some cause for concern, and but I think they knew that they were loved. In fact, Kent came home one night when him and his couple of his drinking buddies had tipped the truck over. But they tipped it back over, and they come home, and so they come in to tell Jerry. And he says, you know, was everything okay? And he says, yeah. And so David and Steve left. And so when they left, Jerry said, well, now you've got to figure out a way to pay to have that truck fixed. You're going to do that, not me. I think Kent would much rather had a kick in the hind end. But he did have to work to get that truck paid for, because it wasn't a new truck, far from a new truck, but it was the only one Jerry had. And he said, the dancer pays the fiddler.
Yeah, it is. How, in one word, how would you describe Kent?
Honest.
Okay. Erlene.
Oh, one word. Obedient.
Roy.
Do it and pay the consequences.
That's a little more than one word, but that'll work.
Huh?
That's a little bit more than one word, but that'll work. Linda.
Compassionate.
And then Vance.
Lifesaver.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite?
No, but I can talk to Kent because he will tell me what he'll give me his opinion, not what he thinks I want to hear.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What was your favorite part about being a parent to those, your children?
Well, the favorite part, when they would do something that took them out of their comfort zone. And if it worked, it was great, but if it didn't, they could handle that too.
All right.
Okay?
That makes sense.
Okay.
What were some of the major events that happened while you were growing up, and now that you've seen and been a part of, since the world's been changing so much?
Okay, I think that parents have lost their respect from their kids by thinking they've got to give them everything they want. And I don't think it hurts for them to go without,
Mm-hmm.
because if they want it bad enough, they can usually earn it, or, maybe it's not important down the road as it was because we couldn't give to everything the kids wanted. But every one of my kids do not need me. They're very self-sufficient, and I've had one that has gone through a heartbreak, and to see how well she has come out and not let that control her. Is that saying too much?
No, not at all. What was one of your most wildest adventures in your life?
I think one of the most favorite things with that
That works.
was when I wanted to try out for rodeo queen. I didn't have a horse. We didn't have a horse in the family, but my dad, which was not like him, found me a horse, and we worked side by side, teaching me how to take care of a horse, how to get on and off of a horse, and how to ride a horse.
That's pretty sweet.
Okay.
Very sweet. Who was your first crush?
Real serious one? Joe McPhee.
Joe McPhee?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
And he married my best friend.
Do you have any fears?
No, not now. A few years ago, maybe, but I know. I'm not afraid because I feel like my grandkids are in good hands, and they're all doing well. And I'm not going to lose sleep over something that I can't control or fix. And I probably don't know a lot that's going on, but I know enough that I can sleep good at night. And I know that if any of them thought I could do something that they needed done, they would be here. They're not afraid of me. They would ask me for anything. In fact, I know things about a couple of my granddaughters that their parents don't know. And that is because they trusted me, as hard as it was for me not to say something to the parents, but that wouldn't have worked. That would not have worked. They told me and they trusted me, and I give them my opinion, and sometimes it was taken seriously and sometimes it wasn't, but they still come here. So that's enough for me. They still know my door's open, and I don't have to agree with them, and they don't have to agree with me. But the relationship I have with most of my grandkids, I've earned because I had to keep to myself. I would tell them what I thought, but not to go any farther. But I think that they love and respect me because of the relationship that we had. I treated them as, if they were acting like a baby, they got treated like a baby. If they acted like an adult, then we treated them as an adult.
Right.
And so, but I don't think there's one that could say that they ever felt unloved. Maybe not. We didn't always agree with what they done, but we loved them.
That's true.
And you know that, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
I do know that. Do you have any advice for the great grandkids, the grandkids that, and the future grandkids that? Any advice for us?
Just be honest and be a good person, not just to family, but to those you associate with, because you're no better than the people that you associate with. And so just be honest and helpful to those that might need some love and respect.
And then the final question I want to ask you, what do you want to be remembered for?
Being a good wife and mom. That's the most important thing to me, to feel the love and respect that my kids have for me, that I feel they have for me. Okay?
Love it.
And my grandkids, I know they all love me.